Is this what you want to do? Is it what you need to do? Or is this what you're called to do?
Have you heard and responded to your true calling? I'm your host, Colleen Akiko, and this episode begins a new We Be the Change series called A Red Heart, with a dear friend and shamanic elder, Jim Eaglesmith, also known as Jimi Ji. We'll be tuning into third ear listening and talking about the power of choosing soul over spotlight. Jimi shares how answering the call of integrity reset the course of his life. He recounts his journey under the mentorship of Adam Fortunate Eagle and others, leading to a path of sobriety, healing, joy, and deeper insight. Jimi's known for speaking from the heart, and I hope your heart finds this segment warming and opening. I am so blessed to be here with my friend, Jim Eaglesmith, Jimi Ji, Jimi. So Jim is a sacred storyteller. He's a HeartMath certified trainer. He has 30 plus years as a shamanic initiate, a medical intuitive, and an artistic musical edu-tainer. He's a multimedia performing artist and musician, a songwriter, a longtime drum circle leader, and boy, he just has a wealth of experience and caring in his lifetime that includes being a caregiver to his mom in her last 3 to 4 years as she was getting ready to make her transition. So I would like to invite now Jimi Eaglesmith. Thank you, Jimi, for being here. I'm so glad.
Honored to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for making some time for us in your day. You're pretty widespread. You're like me, you wear a lot of hats. In fact, you're wearing a hat right now. We have had a lot of fun together in doing some gatherings and some groups and drumming and playing music. I know you have deep roots, and I would like to honor those roots. You are here as an elder. I know you have deep wisdom to pull from. I'm not sure what we'll be able to get in today, but let's just hop in. Could you give me a little of your backstory? I know you started out playing music.
The music career ended in 1980, I think. I was touring and I was a cowboy and grew up that way with my dad, country music and cowboy stuff, farming. So I was performing at the Frank Sinatra showroom in North Tahoe, opening for a cowboy Hall of Famer from Nashville, and got an offer from the audience after the show was over from some famous people. They came up and they flew me to Las Vegas and wanted to sign us up. My band was called Willow Street, and it was fiddle players, banjo, country, and I was the lead singer.
Lots of fun.
I went to Vegas and they wanted to put us on a flatbed truck and do a conventional type of a commercial and then go to Nashville and a world tour. So I came back to Tahoe. We were staying there for 30 days and had a talk with my lead fiddle player. And the conversation led to, I didn't know at the time, a major life change because he wanted to replace my buddy, the banjo player, with his banjo player from Mission Mountain Wood Band in Montana, because his best friend was a lot better banjo player, technically. And so we had that talk on the lake in a cabin. I woke up in the morning and I said, no, you can't betray your best friend for money and fame. And that was the first time I'd ever had to make a decision in what you would call integrity or spiritual integrity. I woke up knowing I had chills. I knew I had to walk away from the opportunity to go be rich and famous, which is what I had devoted my life to up until then, out of a moment of integrity that I didn't know about. I didn't know what it felt like. It was a calling. And I didn't even tell Billy. I didn't tell him that this is why I walked away from the band. And he moved back to Los Angeles later. And the band went on without me, except it faded out. So anyhow, that was a major life-changing thing. And it was my first moment of integrity where I had to walk away from something really valuable and spiritual. But the nice thing about it was After I walked away, somebody introduced me to Adam Fortune at Eagle, and I went out to his property and did my first sweat lodge. And when I walked out of that sweat lodge that first time in spring of 1980, he said, "You've been purified." And that stuck with me to, okay, I'm purified. I got to change my life. I have to quit using drugs and alcohol that I did, that the whole band did. We were addicts, but we were, what do you call it? An addict that's professional.
Functional.
Functional, yes. I knew what that definition meant. All of us in the band were functional addicts. I wasn't functioning anymore. And he said, "You've been purified." I just thought that quote stuck with me forever. We're still talking about it. And I've been clean and sober ever since. I didn't have to go to 12 steps. I started with the 13th step from Adam. The next decade of the rest of the 80s, I was kind of like a student, a spiritual student of Adam Fortune at Eagle, who was, as from the old days, he occupied Alcatraz Island and started the Native American Indian movement with his friends and moved across the country, and that changed everything. But it also changed me. I had to re-identify myself. Who am I going to be when I grow up? And so I followed the native path and made friends with some other elders here in Reno.
You know, the picture that I got when you were talking about coming out of your first sweat lodge was, not saying that you're a snake, but how a snake
Shed the skin. Yeah.
It has outgrown its skin, and the old way of being no longer fits. You took that step to be aligned with what you knew as true in your integrity, and that cost you, and it also freed you, so you could walk into this new way of being. And it sounds like that was a huge change before and after. Before, you were getting high a lot one way or another, and after, you went inward, it sounds like.
And that was life-saving, because I know to this day, I would have overdosed on drugs on the road and not be here today.
So many have.
Looking back, and at the time, I just trusted my intuition, but it saved my life, and I didn't know at the time. Then on, I learned to trust my intuition, my higher self, to listen with third ear. Spent a year out near Pyramid Lake with a shaman out there, and he said, "I'm teaching you, and you're going to go outside and learn third ear listening to the animal, plant, and mineral kingdoms." And because I told him about the story, about that story with Adam Fortune at Eagle, and he says, that was your first third ear listening. You listen to your third ear, your higher intuition. Some people would say it's intuitive or psychic, but he just called it third ear listening to animal, plant, mineral kingdoms, who most people today think that the human kingdom is on the top of the four. What they taught me is that the human kingdom is at the bottom of the list, and we have to learn to listen to the others to become as wise as they are, not as physical, third dimensional, but as wise.
Yes, beyond those dimensions. There may be people listening who are starting to recognize that they have another way of hearing, another way of knowing. And what I'm seeing in your story is that it wasn't convenient and it didn't make sense for you to respond to that way of hearing the way that you did. In fact, it was very counterintuitive on a financial level, on a social level, and on the level of being comfortable. When we are awakening to that way of hearing and knowing, it doesn't make sense, does it? And yet there is no peace except for aligning with what we now are coming to know. So it sounds like you did not have much of a limbo stage, in that you made the decision quickly. For some of us, it takes longer, but you made an overnight decision. And how long was it from the point that you made that decision to align with that third ear knowing and shifting into going into your first sweat lodge, for instance, and the Red Road?
Not long.
Okay. So there is some limbo, but it doesn't have to be stretched out and unbearable.
Yeah, that limbic stage was, I was still drinking, smoking, self-medicating, especially since I'd lost my whole career, what I believed was my life career in show business. And so I was still self-medicating. And my friend from Los Angeles came up here to go to school at the University of Nevada. And he called and said, let's get an apartment together. And we got an apartment together. And for some reason, when he was studying medicine, he said, a friend of mine invited me to go study shiatsu. And so, you want to come? I said, okay, I'll do anything. I went there, and after a couple of shiatsu lessons, I started learning about energy and acupressure and oriental medicine. And after a few weeks of that, next door to us, to the professional building that we worked in, next door to it was a creative artistic gallery of arts. And one of the artists that was showcasing his stuff was Adam Fortune at Eagle, an amazing artist. And he came next door one day, stood in the doorway, and with his head almost touching the top of it, and double braids, he stood there. He says, so you guys are studying to be healers, huh? And we go, yeah, we're studying to be healers. And we were just in awe of the size of him and how he looked. And he says, before you can become a healer, you've got to be purified.
Oh.
So next Saturday, instead of coming here to study, you're going to come out to the sweat lodge and get purified so that you can be a healer.
Awesome.
And that's what led to all of this. It was that moment. So I didn't have a lot of time before walking away from show business and that consciousness, where a couple of months later, and I don't believe in coincidence in life anymore. It's no coincidence we're having this talk. It was from that day in the sweat in 1981 that stepping out of there stepped to this moment in time we're having right now. That was part of it. It already happened. It's almost like this has happened back then. Does that make sense?
My brain would say that makes zero sense, but my deeper knowing knows that time is an illusion. So of course it makes all the sense there is. And how beautiful that your awakening into a new way of being happened in the sweat lodge, where we are in that place of gestating in our mother's womb.
Yeah.
And we emerge newly born, having had that time in the fire, in the heat, and a time of prayer and surrendering and seeking Creator's guidance.
And callings.
Yes.
I remember that. They told me, ask yourself these questions every time you have the opportunity. Is this what you want to do? Is it what you need to do? Or is this what you're called to do?
Yes.
And the first time that I actually had to ask that question, I was out off the grid near Pyramid with some native people that were initiating me to be a sweat lodge leader, which I never took, but I did go through the initiation. Off the grid, walking on fire, taking the peyote, and at the end of the 3 or 4 days initiation, they said, you need to wake up in the morning knowing if you want to do this, you need to, or you're called to it. And we want you to be called. And that last night, I went to sleep staring at the Pleiadian sisters, the stars. And I asked them, am I called to this? And when I woke up in the morning, I heard them say, no, you're not called to this. And I told the chief, I went, damn, they said I wasn't called to it. And so he said, that doesn't matter. You're on that path, that red road path. And I said, yeah, but I don't have any Native American blood in my body. I'm totally white. I'm Irish, English, German. And he says, it doesn't matter because we see you have a red heart. And that shifted. That quote, it's like the other ones, that quote, a red heart. That changed my life from then. I didn't have to become a sweat lodge leader to change my heart and to go on another calling, find what I'm called. I wasn't called to that. I wanted to. That makes sense?
I feel what you're saying. And yes, again, I'm seeing that you made a decision that was aligned in integrity. And I'm so glad and blessed that you did that, because it opened the way for you to serve in so many ways that if you were pouring sweat lodges, you might have missed. And yet the depth of knowing the lodge and experiencing and understanding in a deeper way the lodge, the prayer lodge.
Yeah.
I know that you have helped many come to the lodge and you have been in support of many lodges. So you have brought that understanding and that depth and that love and that truth to all that you do in that way. So I see that when we surrender our wishes for the greater good and we ask for guidance and direction, it's there. And like you said, it is already done. Just waiting on our surrender and moving forward with that guidance and that direction, which you did. I feel there's such a richness and a fullness that you bring, and you have been doing this for many years, awakening those around you to their hearts. And to have someone say you have a red heart, that's very powerful. I'm feeling that.
I've never told anybody that. Absolutely never spoke that out loud.
Is that right? It's out now, brother.
I love the moments of clarity that Jimi and other guests remember in these podcast conversations, and how acting on these moments opens such amazing life changes. How did this segment feel for you? Did it remind you of any events or stories from your own life? Please feel free to bless us and others with your comments. Also, if you'd like a complimentary little ebook and guide, we'd be delighted to email it to you. It's called Embracing Your Evolutionary Luminary. It's a little autobiographical story with Yoda that explores the question, what if the change I seek is already here? Just reach out from the bottom of any page on our website, SongRise.LIVE, that's SongRise.LIVE. This is Colleen Akiko, and I look forward to your being with us on the next segment of the series, A Red Heart with Jim Eaglesmith. Love and blessings to you.